singular success.
Hey singers, this is LK Fletcher at the Mona Lisa Life, and I want you to be a singular success. Today, I have a very specific video that I want to share with you. If you are a high school student and you are considering majoring in music, your timeline and your goals and your objectives are a little bit different depending on where you are in the process, if you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior. If you are a senior, and you're watching this now, these dates and timelines are urgent, and I would encourage you to save the transcription, which should be available down low, and take notes, because this is all about timing. Because getting into a music school, if you decide you're going to major in music, is very competitive. So we're going to address a couple things first, just to make this process simple for you. So you've decided that you are going to major in music. You're going to get a music degree. So you're going to get a bachelor's of music or a BFA. Maybe you're going to get a degree in musical theater or classical music or opera or contemporary commercial music, which is also called CCM. Those are all options that are available right now. In addition, you might be saying, you're going into something that's not a performance-based degree, so you're looking at musical therapy, which is a great hybrid degree, or musical education. But these are for performance-based tracks. So we talked a little bit about some of those options that are available for you: musical theater, classical music, or opera music. If you're an instrumentalist, this all applies to you as well. Instrumental music, or contemporary commercial music, which is you're interested in some form or variation of pop music, whether you're a singer-songwriter or you're an instrumentalist. So those are the options we're talking about. Here's the first thing about music degrees. They're highly competitive. They're, in many ways, they can be as competitive as something that we think of as a very lofty academic groups program. So, you're looking at pre-med, or you're looking at veterinary, or you're looking at some of the, elite business programs or journalism. They're all competitive, and singing degrees typically are universities with a conservatory program, and the programs that are recognized as producing singers and just nationally have really good accolades for producing people that are successful. They're usually universities that are pretty academic. So if your academics aren't super strong, if you don't have an A average or a high B average, most of what we call the elite schools or the top tier schools that produce singers, and it's not to say they don't do that everywhere, because they do, are going to be that competitive. And we can talk about that. We can talk about what that means if maybe you're not an average student, but you're an exceptional musician. And what are your options? But for now, let's just presume that we're going down this very academic path, and we're going to get this degree at this elite conservatory school of music. One of the things you need to understand, and you can fast forward through this, is what is that program going to give you? So I'm going to give you 3 sample scenarios based on 3 different degree programs: a musical theater degree, a classical vocal or instrumental degree, and a CCM degree. So all 3 of these programs, you're going to have some music proficiency, which means you're going to have to be able to read music. You're going to have to be able to understand music theory, and you're going to have a proficiency on 1 or more instruments. So typically, if you're a singer, it's voice, and you have to have a piano proficiency. If you're an instrumentalist, it might be your primary instrument. If it's not piano, you'll have to have a secondary instrument. If you're a composer, songwriter, you're going to have a portfolio. So all those things will lead you into a program where you're going to have a specific course of study. In musical theater, you're going to have a triple threat based curriculum. So you will have dancing, you will have acting, and you will have musical training, whether it's the history of musicals or you're taking private lessons, you're in ensembles or performing groups, you're required to do studio presentations. You're always, in every degree program I've ever heard of, have some type of commitment on a daily basis, usually to be in 1 or more performing ensembles. So that could be a choir, it could be a studio band. If you're going in for audio engineering and contemporary commercial music, you might be in the studio and you have to be mixing or doing a number of jobs that align with that. but your curriculum will support your degree in addition to you will have in most programs, unless you're doing an artist diploma or a certificate or a master's level program, you'll also have other academic courses. Again, that academic entrance wall that you have to cross over that you're going to be responsible for. So if you're an opera singer or a classical singer, you're going to have a proficiency in multiple languages, probably French, German, and Italian, including diction classes. You'll have to be familiar with the International Phonetic Alphabet. If you're in musical theater, you'll have a lot of musical history, and you'll have a lot of pedagogy classes, hopefully on technique, as well as you'll do a lot of repertoire work, and you'll be responsible for just learning a lot of this wonderful music. If you're in contemporary commercial music, you'll be consistently assessing other people's portfolios, you'll be transcribing and analyzing music, you'll be writing your own music, even if you're not in a songwriting program. And you should have a lot of studio time where you're learning the basics of sound recording, production, and promotion, which is really critical, so that you can write and produce and monetize your own music. By the way, one of the things that I think is a deficit in a lot of programs, but it's changing, it's getting better, is there is not a lot of business information in many of what is still the elite schools. So they don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur as a singer or as an instrumentalist, or how to manage your business, or how to find work. You know, you get that through a lot of Q&A and through your network, but that's something that I would circle back to when you're talking to an admissions person and say, how are you going to help me to succeed in my field? And how many people that graduate from your program actually go on to have careers 5 years, 10 years later that are sustainable? So those are really good questions, because at the end of this process, if you want to go into music, you want to go into music business. You're in business for yourself. And I'm glad to circle you back to some of my other videos, or set up a consultation with me at the Mona Lisa Life, and we can talk about what is a business plan or a business model that will take you to your next step. The next thing I want to talk about is some of the prerequisites you have to do before you apply. Okay, so these are your prerequisites, your busy work. If you are a junior before your senior year, so this means July, okay, and August at the latest, because there's a big list of things you need to do. You should have your financial aid form done. You should know what schools you're applying to. You should make a spreadsheet for what the application process is. So for example, University of Music, that's a fictional school. University of Music, you have to apply to the University of Learning, also a fictional school. And so maybe you apply for them September 1st, but then to apply to the University of Music at the University of Learning, they're requiring that you send in a pre-screening. So you send in a beautifully executed pre-screening video with your audition selections or their prerequisites. And then if you've been accepted to the University of Learning and they have your standardized test scores for SAT or ACT, and they have your FAFSA, they say, congratulations, Mr. or Ms. Musician, you've been accepted to the University of Learning. You may now apply to the University of Music. So you got to get all those things checked off, and it's a university. It could take 2 months to get that information back. So you're already at October. So they say, congratulations, based on your pre-screening, we would like to schedule you for an audition. And the typical really big program will have 3 rounds of auditions. The first round will be late fall, like November, early December. And not everybody does. And then there'll almost always be one January, February timeline, and then another one March or April. Think about sports teams. Everybody wants to be a first round draft pick. When you do that earliest audition because you're ready and you know what you need to do to be ready, there are the most amount of openings available in that program, and there's the most amount of money available for you potentially to get in terms of a scholarship or an allotment or something that will help you financially to fit into that program. So if I'm applying for the University of Music at the University of Learning and I get in on that first round of auditions, there's a lot of factors that are going to be at play there. Like, let's say I'm doing the classical program, okay? And I want to be a singer there, and I know that they've only graduated a few singers in their really big program, and it looks like they might only have openings for 6 to 10 singers, and they're really soprano heavy. They don't want a soprano, and guess what? I'm a soprano. I'm already in a really competitive environment, so I want to get in there really early. Maybe there's only one soprano spot and I want to get it, or one flute spot. And that's also why you apply to many schools, and you got to have all those deadlines organized. So make sure that you do everything you can to get your prerequisites done. You have your standardized testing done, you've got your financial aid done, you know what schools you're applying to, and you get those applications in as soon as you can. Late August is ideal, and they go through those rush of auditions, and then you're in alignment. Now, you might find at some of the super competitive schools, especially classical programs, they not only are very competitive, but, and this, I'm talking to singers here because this is notoriously a problem for singers. They don't want singers that can't compete with musicians. So for example, I had piano since I was 4 years old. So I was very competitive as a singer when I applied for my undergraduate program because I could pass a piano proficiency test. I could pass a sight reading test. I could pass an ear training test. If you are somebody that's relying on your beautiful voice and the fact that you have, an amazing ear and you can learn stuff as soon as you hear it, that won't help you in those testing situations. And those testing situations are sometimes the difference between getting in and not getting in. And the reason that testing is so important, because sadly the singers that have these exceptional musical skills, but they don't have the academic skills, they traditionally don't pass in an academic music program. If you're going into contemporary commercial music and you want to be the next Taylor Swift, Bruno Mars, whatever it is that you want to do, some of those academic prerequisites may be less stringent because they understand the background that many of you musicians are coming from, but understand that they are going to push you to have those skills while you're in that program. So anything you can do to learn it ahead of time is going to be so helpful for you. Let's talk about picking a school. If you're in high school and you're talking with a guidance counselor, you already have several things that are on your radar that you're thinking about. But make sure before you even research your degree program that you have some honest answers for yourself. So here's some of the things you got to answer. Is where I go to school important? Do I need to go close to home? Do I want to go to a big school? Do I want to go to a private school? Do I want a program with a lot of competition, or do I want a program where I feel safe? Do I want a program that's based on one teacher or one really strong emphasis, like I'm really interested in gospel music, or I'm really interested in contemporary 21st century atonal music? There's programs for everybody, but you need to find one that's right for you. This is a big deal for me, and that is the area where I'm going to go to school going to give me a network and a community that I can work in afterwards? So if I go to school in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm totally sold out that I want to be on Broadway as a musical theater performer, you're going to have a lot of pluses in why you're going to go to that school in Lincoln, Nebraska, because the reality is that network gets a little bit diffused from where the work is, because the work is in New York City, or maybe a secondary market like Chicago, or another secondary market like Florida, where there's tons of musical theater opportunities. So make sure that you really balance that. And, I wouldn't study oceanography or marine science and go to Bloomington, Indiana to study that, because I'd need to be in the water. So you want to be networking, auditioning, communicating, building contacts, rehearsing, meeting other musicians that are in the community or have really strong ties to the community you want to work in. Otherwise, what happens is you graduate from college and you got to start all over again making those connections. So just like they say in real estate, location, location, location. Location is really critical. Really critical. So we talked about the application and audition process, and it's a little bit different, like we said, for everyone. If you apply to your favorite schools for what I call round one, if they have a round one, well, after 6 to 8 weeks, hopefully you have some offers, you have some rejections, and you say, okay, I got into school A and B, but they're both too expensive. I didn't get into school C. And you're like, I think I'm going to do a second round of auditions in that January, February window. So you send off those applications because you didn't pay for them the first time in August. You got to pay for them now because you don't want to pay for things you don't need. And maybe you just pick 2 schools and they're all in the same city and it's super easy, but you apply to those schools. You got to get through the University of Learning, then you got to get through the University of Music or the School of Music, right, with your audition. If you got to do pre-screening videos, if you have to do pre-test or placement test for piano or theory or ear training. So all of a sudden that time builds up really quickly. And then when you've done that second round of auditions, by that time you're probably at a point where you have to make a decision. So you can say to school A and B and to the school that you auditioned for in the second round, yes, no, or maybe. Will you hold my spot? See what your options are. If you need to, then there's a third round of auditions, right? And that third round of auditions, remember, it's just like how major sports teams work. There's less spots, there's less money. It's kind of whatever's left. It might be the perfect fit for you, or it might just really feel like leftovers. In addition to those 3 rounds, there's always an option that you can call a school or a voice chairperson and say, I know you're past your deadlines, but I would really like to sing for you. Here is a list of my repertoire, and here is my CV or my resume, and here's my YouTube channel. And if you have an opportunity that there's an opening, you'd like to look at my materials and see if I might be a good fit for you, that would be great. So sometimes you just need to reach out and be that business person and say, I could be a really good fit for your school. I know it might not be the perfect time, but maybe you'll make time for somebody like me. So don't be ashamed to do that, okay? It might be that you think the stars and the dates are not aligned. Sometimes you can align them. I want to talk about those 3 things that I said you need to have ready. You need to have a repertoire list. Whatever type of music you sing, you need a spreadsheet. You need a spreadsheet that says what you learned, if you have videos, if you have performances of it, when you learned it, if you performed it. If you contact me at themonalisalife.com or sing at themonalisalife.com, I'll send you a copy of a template that you can use. It's just a Google Sheets document, and it's a great way for you to keep up with all the things you've learned and where you've performed them and post your recordings in. But it really gives a really clear picture to everybody from a casting director to a department chair to a future music professor, and it says, oh, that's what the singer is about. Doesn't matter the genre. So a repertoire list, a CV, that's a curriculum vitae or a resume. What have you done? Where have you done it? And there's so many tools to help you make that look good and be an accurate representation. We're all learning and we're all looking forward to going to the next step. So don't be ashamed of what you have or haven't done. Put it out there so we can see it. Certainly be creative and reflect your talent and your enthusiasm, but you need a resume. And then the last thing is you need an online portfolio. Everything's digital online. So maybe you have an Instagram or a YouTube channel or a TikTok channel where you've been posting 30-second clips of your singing every day. Those type of things are really important because people will follow you, and people are your stockholders in your business. So the more people that follow you and listen to you, the more commodities you have and the more value you have as a student, as a performer, as a producer, as a music influencer, and hopefully as someone who's able to do music for their entire life. A couple things when you contact a school. If you're going to audition for a program and you already know who is the person that you want to influence or be in relationship with. If you're in musical theater, it might be a stage director. If you're in applied music, so you're going in for musical performance, whether it's classical, opera, instrumental, Maybe it's the head of that department, it's the head of the harp department, the head of the voice department, or specifically, which is the best, it's the teacher that teaches your instrument. So I'm a singer, I go to the voice teacher that I've researched and I think I would love to have the opportunity to study with, and I say, dear professor that I love, I am going to be auditioning on December 1st for your program. I would love, professor that I love, to have a voice lesson with you before my visit, period. Would that be an option? Question mark. Of course, I would be delighted to pay you for your time and appreciate any feedback you can give me on my future at your school. Happens all the time. The singers that do that are typically the singers that succeed. You gotta build a relationship from the very beginning so that when you go in for that audition, and you know it's limited on the number of musicians they're gonna take, there's that professor that you love saying, oh yeah, I remember working with him or with her, and we had a great chemistry, and they were really well prepared, and they showed so much progress and potential. They don't always get that in audition, but you can get it by having that pre-meeting with that professor that I love in the School of Music. So don't neglect that. It's really important. Whatever cycle you are in the audition process, commit to contacting somebody that you think is going to help you build a bridge to your success. Okay, I want to do a separate video on scholarships, but I will tell you that you can't get any scholarships until you get accepted, and you can't get accepted until you do all this work. So make sure that you've started this process. Start it as early as possible. If you're a last minute singer or instrumentalist, contact me, sing at the Mona Lisa Life. If you're an early bird planner, maybe it's the beginning of your freshman year and you want a 4-year timeline, same thing, contact me, sing at the Mona Lisa Life. There are other things that we can discuss, but I'm going to save them for another day, and that's, should I major in music or should I minor in music? What's the difference, and what's going to help me have a career? Wow, big questions. If you want to know those answers to those questions, stay tuned or contact us. But in the meantime, you have to have a plan, all right? You've heard the old adage, fail to plan, plan to fail. This is a planning process. It is strategic. It's not impossible, but there are some unknowns. If I can help you, I would love to help you. You are in business for yourself. Find business partners and a business community that will say, go musician, you got this. Hope you're a singular success. I am pulling for you. Have a wonderful day.